So this is an unusual setup right now. I think I may know the reason why we have so many people here, and we didn't expect that much places here. So this is likely because of the word AI here in the talk. I'm betting on this a lot because there are not so many talks about AI right now at this slot. My name is Ilya, and today I want to tell you the story about how we at Qonto roll out AI in our really big organization. So we hear this word AI basically everywhere. We all know that it's changing the way how we build software, changing our lives. Basically, you hear and see these two letters everywhere. You open your LinkedIn, Instagram, X, everything, you hear these two letters, and maybe we may have some sort of AI buzzword fatigue. Just a quick vibe check. Who is bored about seeing this word, this buzzword? Yeah, I see some hands. Okay. Basically, if we took a shot every time on this conference, like every time we hear this word, none of us would make it till the end. Right? This is something we maybe want to do and want to have, but let's leave it for the party time. So I may have a solution for you for today's talk. Since I wanted to give you the story, since this setup is quite unusual as well, let's introduce the character into the story. Please meet Sammy. Sammy, the beaver. This is our rookie engineer, your recent hire, who just graduated from university, just joined your team. And basically the idea is, every time for this talk, I say the word Sammy, that equals the word AI. You may ask, Ilya, why are you making such a cringy comparison? What AI and Sammy, AI as a tool and Sammy as a beaver have in common? I'll tell you what they have in common. They're both eager to help. AI as a tool and Sammy as a rookie engineer who just joining your team. They both feel like they read all over the internet. They both like a bit inexperienced at times. They're both stubborn and overconfident. But they actually thrive at the repetitive tasks that your senior engineers hate. Right? This is something they both have in common. The boring tasks, give it to Sammy. And now the philosophical question, like what would be your approach to onboarding Sammy to your organization? Would you perhaps Sammy with your best engineers? Or maybe would you throw Sammy into fissures with high stakes from day one? Or maybe would you do something opposite, like put Sammy in isolated environment where Sammy has a probation period and then final exam and either gets like passed or not? All these questions I'll try to answer you through the story, how at Qonto we rolled out AI and actually hired Sammy, and so I think that we can get it started. But first, a little bit about the context where Sammy actually landed. So as I said, a company called Qonto, we are a banking app. We have more than 600K customers. We have a quite big mobile org of 220 engineers. And it's quite a challenge, right, for the Sammy to join. It's a 60 Android engineer org, releasing Android app daily. Here I want to emphasize the word daily, because not sure that majority teams on the market are releasing the app daily. What it means is also high stakes. So this is also delivery pressure of usual fintech job, deadlines, and by still huge focus on quality. We, as a very big company, we have a bit of a culture embedded in Qonto. One of the examples would be we have pragmatism over hype. This is what we think. We just don't use the tools because of the trends. These tools, they have to prove their worth or die. So if there is no impact to benefit to the team, this tool goes directly to the trash can. So it's quite challenging environment to Sammy to join. Like not every recent hire can be really productive from day one. And now let's check quickly how Sammy will be doing in our story. But first, disclaimer. That will be on a story, not a sales pitch. We are not an AI vendor. I'm not incentivized anyhow to sell you any AI software anyhow. It will be on a story about our ups and downs, experiments that we tried, and when we failed. So don't expect from me like go-to plan like step by step, you need to adopt a new organization. So every story is really different. The best you can do is learn from our mistakes and maybe get some examples to adopt to your organization. With all of this, I think the introduction is done. So let's get to the story. To the phase one, how we built the safe playground for Semi to join. This is how we call it our chats era. In first days, our Semi is still training. Little knowledge here and there, just maybe in terms of skill set, like ChatGPT, like little code generation. But it was in 2023 where Semi joined, and we were still not convinced. It was no single one like aha moment when we said, okay, now it's finally the thing. Now finally we know that Semi is changing the way how we build software. But then actually something happened. We introduced the platform called Dust. So in the beginning, it was just a compliant LLM wrapper. Basically, since we are fintech, we wanted to give our devs compliant and safe access to the latest AI models. In the beginning, it was just like that. You can imagine as a wrapper around Anthropic, OpenAI, or any model you can get on the market. I'm basically betting on the fact that some of you in your engineering teams are already using that, some of the wrappers, some of the vendors. And then as we grew, also Dust grew with us together. We started to integrate more and more things to Semi's knowledge. So basically, the LLM itself is not even that useful. What is useful is more when we start to integrate more and more things inside of it. So basically, if it doesn't have any corporate company data, it's not that useful. So we started to integrate more and more things. First was Slack and then Notion. If you guys using Atlassian products, for example, we are using Notion for everything. Like, so basically for knowledge base, on Confluence, or like for Jira, we use Notion as well. So as soon as we integrated our LLM through the Dust solution to our company tools, so our developers, and not only developers, employees as well, could prompt actual corporate data basically 2024. That was important. It was quite important step for us. And then later the year, we started to do even more. We started to create some specialized bots to do even more and more integrations. But on this a bit later. And you can picture it like this. On the left side, you have different integrations, quite simple scheme here. And in the middle, you have some vendor. In our case, it's Dust. And on the right side, you have bots that you can create. Since I'm here talking about mobile, right, and specifically Android, this is the most interesting bot that we created. We found a way how to connect Dust to and basically our AI and connect Semi to the GitHub repository. So with this, our engineers could now ask AI questions with full repo context. Basically the same concept as Cursor, IDE, if you're familiar, or any other vendors. Basically in 2024, our devs they got the access, full access, and could start prompting, moving from very generic answers from ChatGPT or any other model to Qonto-specific insights. We had good adoption on this. Like without these bots, just general Dust usage was 52%. And typical usage was more or less explaining architectural patterns, onboarding, standards, and processes. And for this bot that I mentioned, we still have 30 daily users on this. So still by this day, and just a reminder, I started from 2024, and by this day, by September 2025, we're still using that, mostly for brainstorming. But what we found out, since this tool, it lived in browser, there is some friction, right? I mean, it's quite clear. If you, as an Android developer, is working in Android Studio, the your IDE, if you want to move somewhere else and switch your context to basically Dust to browser window, you lose this one-piece flow. So there is some friction. This is we clearly found it out, and just remember this friction. That would be important for this talk. Maybe a quick example how it may look. typical chat interface enabled for every employee in your company, and you can pick different bots there, basically. One of the bots that I didn't mention, maybe, like we created a bot to match our design system components to our actual compose code, or maybe some helper to actually create a pull request. That was quite handy. An important thing here that everyone could create these bots, integrate more and more things. I mentioned already a bunch of tools, different ones, but since we're changing the way how we build software, here the word trust is quite important. Like how you get your buy-in from developers, how would you get this trust and how this trust is being built. What we found out is you can just jump into the code generation right away. Like this step with a compliant LLM wrapper, like safe sandbox that Semi could experiment, it was quite needed for us. So we found out that trust has to be earned, not declared. So it wasn't a top-down decision for us to use Dust. And like we actually got the buy-in on every layer, starting from CTO, then down to the IC. And it wasn't just about giving the licenses, it was more about the culture shift. Basically, as I said, everything starts from buy-in. A little bit more of our experiments from 2024 you can read on Medium post. I attached the link here from our CTO, Emlik. He extensively elaborated a lot on the especially culture part, but since we don't have time and we want to get back to Semi as soon as possible, let's move on. Now to the phase 2. Like in phase 1, Semi only lived in the browser and didn't have access to actually writing code, right? It didn't touch the code that much. So we wanted to play safe as much as possible. In here, like the next era, agentic era, I need to introduce you to the term itself. So chat versus agents, what is the difference? Chats, they are great for conversation and brainstorming. You can answer questions, explain code, draft docs. It's all good, but agents actually go beyond that. They read your wrapper, refactor code, run commands. Basically, they have full access to your machine, right? And for us, the phase 2 started from this, from experiments in an agentic world. Yeah, like I said already, like everything starts from experiment. At Qonto, we have the culture of experimenting. And in the next few slides, I will be sharing you 2 stories, 2 examples of something that didn't work and something that worked. And the first one would be, how do we try to, like we had a simple idea. We have Figma, we have our design system in Compose. What about connecting these 2 pieces together right away through the help of MCP? For those who don't know, MCP is a protocol. Basically, you can picture it as an API, how to connect LLM to integrate it to any other resource. An idea was quite simple. Let's just paste the link from Figma to LLM, basically to Semi, and then get your Compose generated code. Like quite simple idea. We had really good POC, and everything worked really fine. But do you think it worked? Like any guesses? So. Yeah, it didn't work. It turned out that our design system was so big, complex, and great that it just became too big and complicated for LLM to handle. So it led to hallucination eventually. What I mean by hallucination is that basically we got some parameters that never existed and so on. Yeah, it was like 70% done code, kinda, but still our developers didn't quite like it. And also, I forgot to mention the previous slide here on the scheme, we picked Cursor IDE because back then that was already like one of the first IDEs that you could connect to MCP. That's why we connected to Cursor, and there MCP wasn't really stable. It was breaking at times. And as I mentioned before multiple times already about friction, again, if something lives outside of Android Studio, in our case it's Cursor, so it dies slowly. The more important question here is like what we learned from it. Like what we learned is the great demos, great POC doesn't mean really adoption in large-scale mobile work. Yeah, we got Compose skeleton with 1 prompt. Was it faster than doing it yourself? Yes. Was it like 100% ready code? No. Are we iterating now to spread the adoption? No, we decided to wait until the LLMs catch up with the complexity. And this is the one example I wanted to share. And now to the example where Sammy actually got promoted to L1. Just a reminder, Sammy started as a trainee, now being promoted to the junior engineer. And as you can see here in the picture, Sammy is still not convinced. Like, this is how I picture AI. Like, even after getting promotions, he still wants more and more and more, even after congratulations in a relatively small time of being promoted. And now to the problem of the second example. And like in a very big app, we had the model, really big model with 300 files, where we basically had our test fixtures. For those who don't know, test fixtures is just basically mocks of your data. In this case, we used it for unit tests. And like 300 files there inside, the problems are clear, no clear ownership, and everyone is owning everything, and by the fact that nobody owns anything as well. And basically every time you change something inside of it, you have to rebuild the app from scratch. And since we're quite big, as I said before, 60 Android engineers, super big app, so sometimes it means also longer builds. We had an idea, basically just to move files around, more or less. Move the files from test fixtures to responsible teams, to responsible features. That would lead to clear ownership, fast to build time, everything is good. You may ask, why not to do it manually? Like, sounds simple, just go there and do it manually. The trick is that, do you like this kind of tasks? Maybe, I didn't ask in the beginning, like audience here, but I imagine here engineer managers, also engineers as well. Nobody likes this kind of tasks. No, clearly, I didn't like this task as well when I was an engineer. But Sammy loves them. Sammy thrives at doing these tasks. This is why we decided to do it with some help of agentic AI and help of Sammy. What tool we used for this? As for September 2025, Qonto is our official tool for the team. We decided to pick it, and we're still using it by this day, by the way. Quick maybe overview what Qonto is. It is agentic CLI. It lives inside of your terminal. What it means, you can run it in Android Studio. Already addresses the issue of like something living outside of Android Studio and not being like basically used and not breaking the one-piece flow. This is important. It has different modes, plan, execute, but you can run different commands there. It will support it, and also in terms of models, it's Anthropic. It's from Anthropic. We were quite satisfied with this. And just maybe super quick, we got a big success from it. So initially we estimated the work like in human days, more or less in 3 weeks. And Sammy did it in 5 days, while also achieving the test build times, lowering down test build times 2 times, basically. So, and it was exact, boring, low satisfaction work that humans, they don't like it. But it was a perfect job for Sammy. And we started to support, I shared with you 2 examples, and in these 2 examples, we started to learn, to see some pattern. Like, as an engineer, if you as an engineer are lazy enough to avoid repetitive work, but also smart enough to find a solution, everyone benefits from it, right? Like, some semi-help avoiding these repetitive boring tasks. And everyone wants to build the features, and everyone wants to iterate with the latest libraries, latest experiment, and so on. And Sammy helps with this. What if you don't have time to experiment? Maybe energy is not there, maybe time is not right. You just want to get your work done and use something that was already decided for you. We also supported these folks by creating AI Get Started guide for every stack, basically. What it is just a page for us on Notion where everyone could access starting from Android and the backend every stack. And it was already known and decided toolbox. Basically, what you can picture it as a FAQ page with everything you need about AI. And we also added some concrete use cases there, and FAQ, and also responsible people who can you reach out for support. And a bit about Android team toolbox. I mentioned already Cloud Code. We use it. daily basis. This is the most popular tool right now. Mostly we use it for repo-wide analysis, agentic use, as I said, and code discovery. But we also don't limit our devs to use only one single tool, because it's quite important. If you just pick one tool, you kind of break the spirit of experimentation. So we allow also Gemini code, for example, for code completion, just as small code completion inside of the IDE. Or, like as I mentioned before, Dust, this LLM wrapper plus bots, is still really good, especially for brainstorming. Okay, and then after introducing all of that, we spot the problem. We spot the problem that people were introducing prompts all over again. Basically, they were reinventing prompts every time. By prompts, I mean they wanted to delegate something to AI, and they had to write a prompt for it, right? But it wasn't in sync. Nobody was sharing these prompts between each other, and like new developer comes to the same tasks and solves this with different prompt. So we saw it as a problem, and we decided to create some sort of storage, some catalog for these prompts, like as a collection of reusable prompts that for routine feature tasks. We scanned the whole process of feature development and identified the most routine ones and the most repetitive ones. The logic was, if this task is being repeated across multiple features, if yes, then that's the great candidate for the prompt. And maybe let me share a few examples just to visit like specific mobile usage here. Like in every feature we create for feature flag, clearly. Like we either create or remove it. We provide some logic. Why not delegate it to Semi, right? Why we have to do it every time ourselves? Or maybe you need some different stuff and you want to extract model from monolith, from really big model. Every app has it, like core model, monolith, like some God model that's really big, and everyone is trying to move it to the features, to have the feature models, to have a faster and better build time. That was another use case. Or maybe you just want to create design system component, like all the structure, skeleton, and everything. So this is a typical prompts, but I think you got the idea, right? And these prompts, they will live in some page, right? Some storage, somewhere that it can be copy-pasted, and then you go to the IDE again. So it's not quite convenient, right? The next step was to use specific Cloud Code tool, Cloud Code feature. It's called Cloud Code commands. So basically now we store prompts inside of the IDE or inside of the Git, and then they're being shared between developers, validated as well, getting updated as well. And one of the typical prompts, again, as I said, feature flags. Maybe you want to create some API endpoint, or maybe you want to convert some models from domain to remote level. And here you can see one forgotten friend from the previous slides about, I'm sure that people here there on the back don't see it, but it's about creating composable from Figma. Now we are evaluating that with already Cloud Code, because we used Cursor for this. Now maybe with Cloud Code we will get it up to speed and it will be working and adopted. Few lessons here throughout our way how to get along with Semi. Quite important to pick the proper people for the proper job to spread the adoption. Pick your AI champion. By AI champion here, I mean like specific people in concrete domains who are driving the adoption. So be even brave. If it's like, this is the message for engineer managers or senior engineer managers here in the crowd. Be brave to create even specific positions for this, either by promoting people or maybe even putting these people in specific role. You would benefit from this a lot. Because we're still like working, at least in 2024, we're working with people, and who is driving the adoption and who is driving initiatives is quite important. Onboard people, for those who don't like to experiment, just please give them opportunity to go to the workshops, opt-in sessions from experts with AI, with experts with Semi, and set goals. This is quite important as well. If something becoming the goal over the progress review, it's already becoming way more important in the minds of engineers and also for the organization. Okay, I shared a few examples with you, like something worked, something didn't work. Now the question is, what if Sammy's manager is asking for KPIs? What's the actual result of it? What is the measurement? Spoiler, like nobody, including us at Qonto, cracked it yet. Measuring AI is still the hardest part about it. We have so many variables. We have developer experience. We have like also engineers. They grow. They becoming faster and better. And it's just giving AI to this equation. It adds even more complexity. Maybe here I want to start from like small report that MIT just published. What they found out is 95% of the pilots on the market, they're actually failing. So what it means is only 5% projects on the market, they provide some return. So it sounds really ridiculous. Like it's $35 billion invested in the industry, and we are getting just 5% return from it. Doesn't sound that ridiculous to me, because I believe this money is not necessarily lost. This is our tuition fee for cost of discovering what doesn't work with AI. Basically, we are really early in the industry on this, and this is our early failures for the expensive groundwork, and doesn't necessarily mean the crisis. And what it also signals is the end of the really naive phase, where everyone wanted to do everything with AI and like build features, basically everything replace developers. So I think it's more, this study shows us a bit more of the start of systemic, really value-driven adoption to the AI. And again, before I go to the measurement, what we measure exactly at Qonto, just a small reminder how the typical day looks for developer. In very optimistic scenario. In very optimistic scenario, developer spends 40% time throughout sprint or whatever format you're using on coding. In this 40% time, 60% of the tasks, they are supportable by assistant. And then in this 60%, it's a 55% completion rate, like the task actually succeeds, right? All of this, if you sum up all of this and do the math, it leads to the 13% like cycle time savings. This is really hypothetical, high-level estimation. But if someone is telling you that AI would help you to build features 10 times faster, either they are AI vendor, or maybe they're not quite right. This 30% is more or less aligned with what we see, but about this a bit later. Now, what do we measure? First, the same business and delivery metrics. We unfortunately didn't do the proper A/B test before and after AI. If you guys, someone is like right now at the moment of adopting AI, please start to do the proper A/B test if possible. One team is using AI, another team is not using AI. This way you can get the best metrics. But we were measuring still our typical metrics, business metrics, how fast we bring, how much time it takes for us to bring value to the user. What about quality, bugs, incidents, and everything, just to see the potential spikes of adoption of AI or not. Now I spoke about adoption already a little bit. Adoption is the main thing that we measure. We measure how much of the AI tools are being used between different departments, between different stacks, mostly to see the misalignment and also see some patterns. Maybe in the security team is not that need of for example, of using AI, but on the front-end teams, that's more use, or maybe that requires a bit more of the workshops or anything. We also measure per team view, basically per each team. For example, Android team, we measure there as well, but we don't go deeper, just to avoid these metrics to be gamified, because we're all smart, right? If metric becomes like measurable and quantitative, it can be easily gamified. This is why we use it just for the proxy metrics. Also, since we don't limit only for one tool, as a Cloud Code I mentioned before, we also allow other tools. We measure the trends between different solutions, right? If we see some trend, for example, rising for Cursor, maybe it would mean for us we need to reevaluate a little bit what is the most preferable, most popular tool for us, and maybe we need a bit more invest a bit more time in it. And of course, I hope you measure cost, right? Cost is quite important on this. Okay, also we do measure something manually. Basically, we provide developers to have a way how to put the manual feedback of how much time was saved with the help of AI. For example, here Jakob is telling us that he saved 1 day by implementing data network layer, or maybe Juan here is saying us that 3-4 days saved this specific migration, or maybe Nicole is saying us that it wasn't even possible to do it without help of AI. It would have taken even more time. So you see this manual collection, like this manual feedback is quite important to see the bigger picture of it. Now, how Semi looks today. Semi lives in IDE. Semi knows the boundaries. Also super helpful with repetitive tasks, especially from 0 to 1. And Semi helps not only developers, but also PMs and designers. Because I'm only sharing here like mobile perspective on this, but you can imagine Semi is already maybe changing the parts of the processes for PMs, like writing PRD documents and so on. A bit about timeline, how we see it for Semi in our organization. Right now, Semi is living on the local machines. Basically, every time you do something, you have to rebuild the app. It takes time, right? For the stuff like creating the feature flag or removing the feature flag, why not to move it on a CI pipeline and just push one button and then you just really free to do anything in parallel on your local machine while this task is being implemented. This is our direction. Another direction would be semi-automating the parts of the process completely. For example, fully QAing the feature, or maybe creating the creating QA plan, or even the PRD document that I mentioned before. Essentially, maybe in the future, long-term future, not short-term future, Semi will be able to build a feature from 0 to 1. From now, we don't see it's happening. I mentioned many times already on the stock repetitive work. Something like tech repetitive work that can be easily put on the paper is in very well-defined plan. In feature, at least in my experience, features are really complicated to put an exact plan on the paper. Sometimes you just missing requirements and so on. So this is semi-building is a feature. This is not the really short-term future. And then as soon as it's done with creating features, Semi will be definitely promoted to L2, because right now he's still junior engineer. Now, if you were sleeping here at 6, I had this sentence in mind, but I didn't expect people actually were like laying down here on the floor, but now it's even more important. If you were sleeping here, didn't get anything from my talk, now it's the time to wake up, because I will be sharing some playbook and some takeaways, what we learned at Qonto throughout our rolling out process. First, pick a champion. People in every domain who is driving initiatives, it's quite important. Everything starts from people, and it starts from proper energy, and be really careful with who you pick and how exactly the adoption and communication happens. Build this safe and sandbox really early. For us, it was Dust. Don't just rush into the code completion, and don't just go to the agentic use on your day one. Start from something safe. Get your buy-in from developers and all your engineers first, and only then go to the Cloud Code, agentic use, and codecs, everything. But start slower. Start slower, and also start from boring work. Don't start from features. You want to get some success from it, start with boring work, start from some low-hanging fruits that actually your engineers don't want to do. Then this task are getting done, then you see the clear impact. And also keep your menu short. Don't try to overwhelm developers with the amount of tools they have. It's quite important, because there are many, and everyone is trying to sell you some AI software, right? And then last but not least, embrace wins and learn from failures. This process is really iterative in every organization. Without some thinking about what's actually happened, what sticks, what doesn't, you will not succeed. With this, thank you. Thank you for attending this talk. Tomorrow I'll be hosting a roundtable about the same topic, about rolling out of AI at scale, together with Maya. Maya, raise your hand. Yeah. tomorrow at 12. Please join there, see share your experience and share your stories. Here you can find a QR code with wipe-coded AI website that I created just for this talk. This presentation, links, and everything. And thank you again, and I'll be pleased to hear your questions.